Okay. So thank you very, very much for joining me at sawbuckseminars.com, the relaunch, Redux. We learned some things from our initial launch of Sawbuck Seminars, and we're hoping that we get it right, that we're hitting topics. My topics generally come from my combing of social media and getting questions. Mail merge is one of those funny little things that no matter how good you are and in Microsoft Office, there's always something that confuses or confounds in mail merge. And the thing is, it really has not changed that much over the years. Beginning with 2003, Word 2003, and the mail merge wizard, the wizard certainly made it easier. And I still continued to use the wizard even when I got into the more modern versions of Microsoft Office. But I discovered that the ribbon itself in Microsoft Word, certainly from 2010 forward, but I even think 2007 forward, is basically built left to right with all the steps you need to do, and that's the method we're going to use. As I mentioned, the file links that I put out there in chat, if you didn't see them, let me know, and I'll peruse chat every now and then to make sure that we have them. But you'll have a little small data source file and then a Word document that we're going to make into our merge file. Just make sure if you open it up and it opens in Drive that you hit that download button. So you download the files and don't open them from there. The handout, which is not required for the presentation itself, but does include the information from the presentation, the different steps, tips, tricks, etc., screenshots. That can be found at bit.ly sawsem0208. bit.ly sawsem0208, and that's where you'll find the handout. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to get mail merge to work. 9 times out of 10 when mail merge doesn't work is because we haven't done things right on the front end. Our data's crummy, we haven't set up the document right, we don't have the right data defined for the kind of mail merge we want to do. So we're going to talk about the secret to getting a good mail merge, which is all in the prep. Then we'll talk about setting up the document, which once you get the hang of it is pretty easy. We're actually going to get a little geeky into some of the features that you can use in mail merge to actually approach it with some logic, like if-then logic. And then we'll actually complete the merge and see what we have. So what do I mean by good data? In the upper right-hand corner of this slide, this is actually the drop down when you want to select the mail merge. These are all the different kinds of data sources you can use. Anything from Outlook to Access, plain old text files, a Word document. Now, what's important for anything is field names. Word has got to be able to identify what your field names are, and it's pretty smart about matching them up to address blocks. It just has to be able to find them. So Outlook contacts are already set up, so the field names in Outlook contacts match the name and address fields in mail merge. We're going to go beyond name and address today, by the way, but just to reiterate how important field names are, the Outlook contacts are built exactly to take on, to match up with mail merge for address blocks. Excel worksheets, which is, if you know me, you know that my go-to is always Excel. But I like Excel worksheets because I can set them up, and that's what we have today for a sample, but we are going to take a look at some of the other possibilities. So I like an Excel worksheet because I understand naming columns, I understand how to move things around, and Excel is kind of home for me. But it's not necessarily the only thing. If you've got a comma-separated value file or a tab-delimited file, let's say you've requested a list from your data analysts of all of your clients in a certain region, and that's what they gave you. They gave you a CSV or a tab-delimited text file, that's fine. If you have something already built in Word, if you have a Word table or even tab-delimited text, let me show you what I mean by that. Let me fire up Word here. Let's actually type the right keys. Fire up Microsoft Word. And let me do a file open. And here is a word source list as a table. Make that a little bigger. So you can actually ask Microsoft Word to use this as your data source for your mail list. And it will get back that first row are your field names, and it will completely understand it. You can even use something other than a table. I like tables, of course. It's nice and neat how it organizes things, but even if your data is only tab delimited, mail merge will be able to use that without a problem at all. So it figures out that everything is tab delimited here. You have to make sure that it is, that the tabs match up with the field names, and they generally will. They'll be aligned on the left with the beginning of the field. Let me close those two down, but that's a perfectly acceptable data source for a mail merge. Again, as is Excel, comma separated values, tab delimited files, and all those other things on the right. You can also type your own. Let me show you what that interface looks like. I'll fire up Word one more time. I actually played around with this for the first time today in years. So we're actually going to do this step by step, so you don't necessarily have to work along with me, but I'm going to start a mail merge and create some letters. And use an existing list is how you get all those other ones. But if you go to type a new list, this is what you're presented with. And I tried copying and pasting. I tried everything. You literally have to come in here and type the list. If you wanted to copy paste, you'd have to copy paste one piece of data at a time. Now, you're not stuck with the columns they give you. You can customize your columns. You can add columns, delete columns, rename them, whatever you want to do, change the order. But you know, if you're doing 10 things, 10 letters, 10 emails, 10 labels, 10 name tags, yeah, you could probably do a type your own. But most of the time, we're actually working with a bona fide data source. I want to close this so I clear everything that's there. Okay, so we need good data. We need tabular data, whether it's tab delimited or in a Word table or Excel, something organized, and Word has to be able to identify those field names. Otherwise, you're really shooting in the dark here to create whatever it is you're going to create. Now, you can edit your list in mail merge. After you identify what you're going to use for your list, you can edit it. You can say, you know, I have 100 records here, but I only want these 10. You can do that. You can remove, you know, certain pieces of information. You can correct things in the process, but it is actually better to do it first. Clean up your data first. Give it a good look. You know, if you're talking about a client list or a prospect list or a vendor list, get rid of the ones that are old. I mean, you know you're going to delete them anyway on the back end. Just get rid of them now. This is a good time to go to clean up the list. Look at the consistency of format of the data. Now, I haven't listed this here on the pre-work slide, but what I mean by that is look down at a phone number column. If you're going to ask, for example, in a letter for your customers or an email for your customers to verify a phone number, make sure the phone number, the way they're in there, is consistent. It's going to allow you to do things like deal with the dialing codes and area codes consistently and effectively. So you really want to make sure your data is consistent as possible. If a column says zip code, let it all be a zip code. If it's a zip code, a zip +4, you know, make sure they're all zip +4, trim off the end, but save yourselves the headaches on the back end. Remove unneeded records. Evaluate the list size versus the size of your desired result. I rewrote that bullet point 19 times. Here's what I mean. And there, see this little diagram of the bricks. See, I only want those 2 bricks. Out of the dozens that are there, I only want those 2. And if I'm actually bringing in, if I'm doing this mail merge from a giant Excel workbook or SQL query or something giant, then really I should just kind of pull the records that I need and not ask it to go after 500 records if I need to. So it does take some machine time. It does take some processor time and processor speed to process a huge list. So if there's no other way for you to do it, fine, edit it in your mail merge process. But if you have the opportunity to pare that list down a bit, if you're doing a mailing to everybody who's in North America and you've got clients that are in Pan-Pacific and Europe and Asia, then see if you can drop out those or ask your data analyst for a smaller query. Don't make Word work any harder than it needs to. And then the other is, will it fit? If you look at that name tag on the right, I don't know if any of you have ever been to a conference where they tried to cram everything onto the name tag, which of course is pointless because no one can see it without uncomfortably staring at your name tag wherever you happen to be wearing it. So you want to know ahead of time, will it fit? Will everything that you want to have on this thing fit the thing that you've chosen? So if you're dealing with Avery labels or tent cards, you know, go grab a record in the data and do it manually and see if it fits, see if everything is there. It will give you a really good idea. A, do you have all the right fields? B, do you need to be economical with what you include on there? I will admit to early on in really getting the hang of using mail merge, doing the mail merge first and then having to go back and fix the ones that didn't work well. You know, if it's John Jones from ABC, who's the president of ABC company, abc.com, New York, you know, things might fit on this badge a little easier, but you know, if we're also including his astrological sign and his meal preference and his member date and all that other stuff, you're going to run out of space. So make sure that whatever your target thing is, it fits it. And really, I'm talking about things like tent cards, name tags, business cards, whatever you're going to use. Make sure that it fits the data that you want to use and do that before. Don't mail merge first. See what you've got and see what it'll fit. Okay, so if we're happy with the source file, now we're going to go ahead and do our mail merge. So this is the work along part of the program if you would like to work along. Before we get to this, I want to check in and make sure if we have any questions. I see we've had Velma join us. Hi, Velma. Glad you could make it. There's some files there in the chat pod for you if you want to download them if you didn't see them out there in the Facebook group. And this is where we're going to try to start work to actually do this a little hands-on. Okay. bit.ly URL for the handout. You bet. bit.ly SAWSEM, SAWSEM 0208. bit.ly SAWSEM. Let me come back to the slide where that was. I think it was on 2. Whoops, not there. Sorry, guys. On 2. Come on. Come back. Nope. There it is. Okay. SAWSEM 0208. And if you ever missed a handout for a Sawbuck Seminars thing that you went to and you can't find the thing that tells you what the handout is, usually it's going to be bit.ly SAWSEM and then a 4-digit month and day, which I got to tell you, being in Europe for a couple of months, I really had to think about. I almost put in 0802, knowing that most of you are in the United States, it's SAWSEM 0208. All right. All right, off we go. So let me get to the right place here. Here we go. Okay, so first close your source file, whatever you're working on, whether it's Word or text or Excel, especially Excel. For whatever reason, when you're using Excel, if you have your source file open, even if you've closed it and you haven't waited long enough for the system to agree with you that it is indeed closed, you won't be able to do your mail merge using that file. So make sure it's good and closed. All right, so I'm gonna come back in Word here. Now, again, the steps that I'm giving you here will be applicable, I believe, from 2007, Office 2007 forward, so nothing should have changed that much. I believe the wizard was a little different in 2007, but I think by and large the ribbon looks the same. So we're going to begin on the Mailings tab, and we're going to start our mail merge. And here's where we're going to decide what we are going to generate. Letters, email messages, envelopes, labels, want to create a directory, or, you know, whatever you want to do. Now you see the step-by-step mail merge wizard. We're going to forego that for today. So if that's what you've been doing, I'm going to show you how easy it is to just work from the ribbon forward. One word of caution, and I mentioned this in the handout too, if you are going to do email messages, which you can do from here, if you're going to do email messages, go to Outlook before you ever get started. My Outlook's going to take a while to fire up here, but you want to go to Outlook, go to the Send Receive tab over here, and work offline. That is so important, because when you don't do this, when you don't work offline, then as soon as you finish the merge, out it goes. If you are 100% confident, I'm not, but if you are 100% confident that you got everything right and you don't want one more look at it, then don't worry about that whole send receive thing off. But I'm not. And in fact, I send email messages out from Sawbuck seminars, but because that's not my primary profile, I have to actually do the mail merge. They get dumped into the outbox for my primary profile email address, and then I have to take them out to Sawbuck seminars and send them from that outbox. If I don't turn send receive off, I will never have that opportunity. So when you get the handout, you'll see that reiterated. So if you are going to do emails, just make sure you shut that down. So we're going to do letters here. So if you've downloaded those files, we're just going to do a regular letter. It's the easiest thing to learn from. So let me go out here. We're going to go start mail merge and letters. And it appears like nothing's happening, but it's ready to now select recipients. If you're working from a list that you're not going to type, you're just going to choose existing list. If you are going to work from Outlook contacts, you can do that, but keep in mind the Outlook contacts that it's going to use are the ones from your primary profile. So even if you have to move them in there temporarily, if you're doing a mail merge for somebody else, you may need to take in their contacts into yours as a folder or a contact list, not a distribution list, but a contact list in there. Okay, select recipients. I'm going to use an existing list. Wherever you downloaded that Excel file to, I'm going to come up here. Okay, that's our Excel file somewhere. Mail merge data source. That's the one. Now, when it first opens from Excel, if you've named your worksheets something other than sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, that worksheet name will be represented in what's highlighted there right now. And of course, first row of data contains column headers. Don't even bother trying to use something without column headers. You'll just make yourself crazy. And click OK. And now it's using that data source. Okay. Now let's just do a little practice run, and then we're going to open up that Word document and actually work in an existing letter. But let's just do a practice run here. A little shortcut thing here, Alt-Shift-D will put in today's date, and that will actually update by default each time that you try to use this letter. So if it's let's say you're in HR and you send out, a candidate acknowledgement letter, and the date changes, of course, when you send it out, that will automatically change. Alt-Shift-D, okay? And if you want to insert, let's just standard address block, you can click address block. Now, I don't know if you remember, we just took a peek at it, was on the slide. First name and last name was F name and L name, which is non-standard, okay? Word doesn't use F name or L name, but I want to show you something here. If I do a match fields, that it figured it out all by itself. It's guessing here that F name and L name are first name and last name. If I called it pizza and chicken, it may not figure it out. It is dinner time here in Spain, by the way. If I had called it something different, it may not have figured that out. But it says, hey, that's probably it. And address 1 and address 2, mine didn't have a space, but they figured out that that was address 1 and address 2. So if you go to insert an address block and it's not pulling everything in, hit match fields there and see if you need to do some adjustment, okay? And we're just gonna click OK here. Now all it puts in is address block, but when we were gonna complete the merge, you would see it. Let's go ahead and take it one step further. And let's type in dear, and let's say we're on a first name basis with all these people. Let's go to insert merge field and click F name. And then some letter, and sincerely. Okay, real basic. So we inserted an address block and we inserted one field. So what did we do here? Well, let's preview our results. So you can see as we march through with this counter up here at the top, we can see all 3 records and how they came in. Now it's here, by the way, that you can make adjustments like, you know, I would probably not want to have spaces in between all these address lists. So I might go like this, highlight these first 3 rows, and go to the Home tab and say paragraph, don't add space between paragraphs of the same style. But did that just affect Joe's? No, let's go find out. Nope, that took everybody. So sometimes seeing it beyond the address block and dear F name will help you understand how you're going to format it. So we were able to apply a little formatting in preview to make it work. That's also where you can do things like say, you know, you want to make this a different font, or you want to use a subject line, or whatever else you want to do. Okay. If we were to do finish and merge here, we could take a look at the letters, but that is, well, let's do it. Let's hit finish and merge and say edit individual documents. We'll just say all of them. So you see in between each one, it did a section break next page. That's how it decided to break them up. Section break next page. How do I know that? Because I'm working with show hide on. You want to know how your documents are functioning and why the thing isn't behaving the way you think it should? Turn show hide on. I know the little markers can be annoying, but they're very edifying. Okay, I also want you to have a look up here at the top. A moment ago, this was document 1, and now up here it says letters 1. And in fact, if I drag that down a little bit, you can see document 1 is still here in the background. Let me drag this all the way out. So document 1 is actually, think of it as the template for the mail merge. Letters 1 is the finished product. If I see this and I don't like the way it all came together, I can just close letters 1 and say don't save it. I still have my mail merge document here. So let's kind of review here for a second. We close our source file, we start the mail merge and select what we want to generate. We can select the recipients by choosing an existing list. I haven't taken you through editing the existing list yet, but we will in the next go around. Once we do that, we address our letter, we insert our fields, and off we go. If you have fields, if things aren't mapping properly, if you inserted an address block and it's not coming out right, city, state, and zip aren't coming out right because you call it something else. We have that every now and then when we work between postal code and zip code, especially if you have a mix. You can go ahead and make your adjustments here and match fields and they'll figure it out. And then of course you write your letter and insert fields. So let's get a little fancy here. We're going to close this document that we created. We don't have to save it. I'm going to have you actually open the one that you downloaded, and that would have been called Mail Merge Document Starting. That should be attached to that link that says document, Mail Merge Document. Okay, So this is kind of a starting letter. This is one that is offering a donor list, our donors to go paperless for their notifications. We also want to acknowledge their latest contribution and have them verify whether they want to go paperless and whether we have the right email address, and that's the intent. So let's use this for a mail merge. First thing, let's put the date at the top of the letter. So I'm going to hit Enter, Alt, Shift, D. That gets the date in at the top. I'm going to press Enter again. Let's go back to our Mailings tab. Make sure Letters is selected. Okay, good. Existing list. Let's go back and find our list. And that is Mail Merge Data Source in Excel. Should be the one that was downloaded. We're verifying that that's what we want, sheet 1. And again, it appears like nothing's going on. That wizard kind of takes us from step to step, but we have gone from left to right across the ribbon, so you really don't need the wizard. You can just go from left to right. This time, let's hit Edit Recipients List and see what's possible. Now on mine, because I keep changing resolution, of course, this dialog box gets kind of scrunched down, but you can widen it. And you can see what it's done is it's actually offering you the opportunity to maybe skip somebody. So if you haven't done your list culling before you brought it into Mail Merge, this is your opportunity to say, yeah, we don't want to send, right? That person got mad at us at the last gala and we don't want to invite them. We don't want to send them anything, so they'll just get mad. So this is also an opportunity for you to see how data is going to come in. I didn't catch this last time. We're going to let it come in the way it is, but this is supposed to be a dollar amount. And in fact, in Excel, it actually looked like a dollar amount, but we can see it's just coming in as a regular number here. We're going to cover that in just a sec. So we can change this here. We can filter it. So if we did have to bring in everybody, we can say, let's go ahead and filter on city and only bring in city that is Chicago. And it will allow you to filter that list down. Now I'm going to go ahead and take that filter out, clear all, but you can actually use the filter there. You can go in as far as find duplicates. So if you don't want to generate duplicate emails or duplicate addresses, you can click find duplicates, and it's saying it finds no duplicates. It's only looking at a full record duplicate. So bookmark where we are. I'm going to take you into Excel for a moment. Whether or not your data is in Excel, without exception, all of these data sources that we're looking at can be exported to Excel. And Excel has a find duplicates function that allows you to find duplicates on a specific field. So if you're pulling in a contact list, for example, from Outlook, and you think you may have a contact in there 2 ways, but with the same email address, a lot of people, if they get married, they change jobs, something is different, but the email address stayed the same, you can find a duplicate based on just that one column. We're not that sophisticated here. We can't do that. We can go in and validate addresses. It needs an add-in to validate address software. Chances are, if you're doing mass mailings out of Word, you probably already have address validation software. If not, write to me and we'll see if we can find on that one. But that makes sure you have good addresses. For those of you that do large hard copy snail mail mailings, there are significant savings for zip sort. There are also penalties for having bad addresses, things that the post office has to handle more than once. So you take a look through, you see what you have. Clean up your data beforehand is always the best thing to do. If you realize you got the wrong data source, you can go ahead and edit that here and go get, oh, this is just editing it so we can go find something. That's actually going in and editing the data source itself. So not changing the data source, but editing what's in it. Okay, so you can do quite a bit in here, and it is still my recommendation. I'm just going to click OK here. Still my recommendation, that you do your cleanup and your culling of records before you ever get here. Don't make Word work that hard. It's easier to do it in the source software that is storing your list. All right, so let's get that address block in, and you can choose from different ones. Now, if you don't have it in your list, you won't see it in the address block. So let's say we want to use Mr. Josh Randall. Well, if I don't have a Mr. or a Ms., it's not in there. So if I have a prefix field that's Mr., Ms., Miss, Doctor, Professor, if I have that in there, it will use it. If I don't, it simply will not use it. So it's not going to guess, and you certainly in this day and age don't want it to guess. So if you choose a more formal address, a name and a suffix here, you can see we've got junior here. If you don't have a prefix and a suffix, it's not going to automatically generate for you. So that would need to be part of your list. Okay, so we're going to insert an address block. We're going to use a very basic one. I'll just say this guy and do insert, and there it is. There's our address block. I'm going to leave it alone for right now, even though we know we've got an issue. After the word dear, we're going to do what we did before, hit a space, insert merge field, and FName. Now let's read through the letter here because there's opportunities to put fields in there. Thank you so much for your contribution last year on. So I'm going to say for your contribution of, and then let's go ahead and insert a merge field, and we have last contribution as a field. Mind those spaces, okay? It's not going to automatically put a space if you insert a field name. So make sure, again, another great reason to work with show hide on is that you can see the tiny little dot that represents a space. So thank you so much for your contribution of last contribution last year on, and let's go ahead and put a space and insert the contribution date. Now we don't need a space there because it ends the period. We really appreciate your generosity. We'd like to keep you informed of our activities and opportunities for networking this year. We show your email address as space, insert merge field, and put the email address in there. And then the rest of this is just text. So this is really all there is to throwing together a mail merge letter, setting up your letter, getting your fields in, minding the spaces and punctuation, and let's take a look at some other things we could do. You can get pretty fancy in here, as the slide says. You can go to rules and put if-then logic in that says, for example, if the field name called FName is equal to this, is equal to whatever this is, then insert this text, or otherwise insert this different text. So if we're looking at a donor type and the donor type is corporate, and we want to say, you know, we thank you very much for your corporate donation of, or if we want to say individual donation of, so we can change what the letter says based on the logic, if-then logic right here. So that's just straight if-then logic, merge sequence number, next record, if, set a bookmark. Honestly, I'll be straight up with you. All that I've ever done in here is if-then, next record, if. So you can set rules up. Be prepared to test. Now, if you are not sure, and they're your first time running through if-then logic on a mail merge, create your own test records. Create a test record for each piece of logic that you do, and then put in some generic records, even put in some records that have erroneous information that you might expect in your list, just to see what it'll do. But create a list of about 5 or 10 records if you're getting fancy, okay? All right, so let's come back out here and let's do our preview. So here's rules, by the way, it's right here, if then else, there's your rules logic. And let's do a preview results. So there's our letter, and there's our spacing issue on the address. So maybe we want another space after the date. Notice when I'm addressing the spacing issue here, I'm only selecting the first 3 rows. Now, it may not be clear coming through across Zoom, but notice that this is gray, but not dark gray like the top three. Your merge fields are always going to be highlighted a certain way, but you can actually just come out here on the left and out here in the margin and select those three, because those are the paragraphs we really want to change. Home, I'm hitting the dialog box launcher in the paragraph group and coming down here and selecting don't add space between paragraphs of the same style. And you can see it brings up Chicago, but it leaves the space between city, state, zip, and the salutation. All right, so there's our plain old 500. With the $sign, it would be grammatically appropriate, because with the $sign, it would say, thank you so much for your contribution of $500. That's how you would read it with the $sign. But in that it doesn't have that, it kind of looks wrong. There's a couple of ways to deal with this. If you just click, you'll see that it darkens it for the field, and you can right click and edit the field. That's one way to do it. And you can say text to be inserted before, and you can simply put a $sign in there. And that fixes that. Let's go to the next record here. I'll go back to the mailings tab. Go to the next record. Good. Now there's 1,000. If you or the person you are creating this for, if you are particular about comma separating on thousands and millions, etc., then you want to make sure that you address this too. Well, that's a little bit harder. My recommendation is to address it in the source data, and I'm going to show you how to do that in Excel in a moment, but let's pretend we're fine with this. So we're good. We've kind of gone through all our records, and if it's not 4 gazillion records, I really do kind of recommend that you page through them, looking for obvious problems. You know, you have an amount field, look, kind of eyeball where you have merge data, like dates. If there's no date in a particular record and it comes through as blank, then you want to put some if-then logic in. If there's no date, then you want to change the text. So maybe it just ends at last year. If there is a date, then you put on date. And if there is no date, then just put the period at last year. So that's a purpose for if-then logic. Okay, so let's say we're fine with it. We're going to hit finish and merge, edit. Always edit individual documents. Don't just go to print. You know, Lord knows we kill enough trees, and half of you are only going to generate PDFs and attach them to emails anyway. Okay, so here we go. So we have our letters. We can page through, take a look, make sure we're happy with the way everything went. Now, just so you have a record of what you did, let's just do a file, save as. And we can put this out here wherever you want. I'm going to put mine on the desktop for right now. Big desktop cleanup coming. Merged letters. When I do merged letters, I'll try to give it a subject. So we might say merged letters. I always want to know that they're merged letters. But merged letters, address or email verify on 02/08/2019. And then I have a record of the letters that were sent out. If these need to be printed, of course, signatures, all those good things you would want to put in. Put it on letterhead, do your headers and footers. All right, let's close this guy. And we're still here, right? Because there's our merge document. Let's go ahead and close the merge document. And let's hit save. Just leave it saved. And now I want you to open up Excel, and I want you to open up that document. I want to talk about a few data fixes that you could do, ways to think about this. So I'm going to open mine as fixed data source. So on mine, I have inserted 2 columns. After last contribution, I inserted a column called fixed. And let me show you what's in there. It's a text formula that says, put the last contribution number, and that's a number formatted as dollars, formatted as currency. Take that number and format it as text and have it look this way, because you know, Word doesn't care whether it's text or a number, does it? You just need to get the information in there so that when it's read, it's appropriate. So what you're saying is take this number, but express it this way. And the way you express it is with a dollar sign, or whatever the currency sign is, and then comma, and there's your thousands, okay? If you wanted to cover anything larger than that, let's say if you had a million, maybe you have donors that go a million or more. And if you're a not-for-profit, I hope you have donors that go a million or more. But here we go. All right, so I'm going to copy that down. And I want you to notice that it doesn't do a thing to that 1,000. It would only matter if this were bigger. So if we put in 222, sorry, not there, 222, 222, it puts the comma in the right place. If we were to make that 1,222,222, 222, it puts that second comma at the millions. We bring that back to where it was. Here is another fix. Let's say in our letter we didn't want to say, be so specific on a date. We wanted to have it sound more casual. Your contribution of $500 last July, last August. It's the same function. It's still just text, and it's text, the date field, and express it, use 4 M's. 3 M's would give you JUL or AUG. 4 M's will give you the fully spelled out month name. Now, even if your data is coming from a different data source, Excel may not be a bad place to bring it in to be able to do things like this. I'm going to go ahead and expose those formulas while I'm yammering here, so you guys can copy those out. Let me make this a little thinner so you guys can copy those out and try them out in your own. And then it will merge those fields. So word merge doesn't care that fixed is a formula. It will use it, and I'm going to demonstrate that in a minute. It doesn't care that contribution month is a formula. It will give you whatever the result is. All right, I'll come back to that if anyone has a question that in Q&A, but I'm going to open up my merge document again, the mail merge starting document. Now, because we've already created a mail merge from this, it's going to attempt to merge it with an existing data source, and that's fine. But I'm going to go to mailings here, select recipients. Oops, let me close that file. Follow my own advice. And go to select recipients, use existing list, and I'm going to change the list now to, I saved mine as fixed data source. And you can see that, let me bring this in here, right click, edit field, let me take this out. And rather than use 500, I'm going to insert a field called last contribution fixed, and it already brings it in. And when I do a preview results now and go through and look at that 1,000, you can see that it pulled in the comma. And let's change our letter last and take all this jazz out here and just leave it last, and we want to just use the month. So insert merge field, contribution month. Those are all formulas, but it brought in the results of the cells. For those of you who are really good at Excel, think copy paste values. It's really just putting the value that's in that cell in here. And once again, we got to fix our crazy, I'm going to go back to one that has 4 lines in it, just because it makes me feel comfortable to do that. And paragraph, and don't add space. Now, if these are letters that you send out frequently, once you save this guy, now this is going to use that data source all the time. Now, you notice how easy it was just to change the data source. So let's say you have a recruiting event. So you go out to college campuses, or you've gone out to job fairs, you have a recruiting event, and you do a different mailing for each recruiting event. You can keep the same letter and change the file. If you've saved the merged letters, you already have a record of the send. So if you needed to keep that for compliance reasons, you have the record of the send of the letters that you generated, and you can just plop in a new existing list. You don't have to do it over each time. That said, each time, go through the steps of looking at the list and examining and making sure you don't have any errors. Speaking of which, there is another function here called check for errors, and it will allow you, this is good if you have to do a big list, to simulate the merge and see if it finds any problems. Complete the merge and pause as if it's an error, or complete the merge without pausing and just letting you know on the back end what errors it finds. So if it's expecting a certain type of data, or you've written a rule that says essentially that this can't be blank or whatever, that's going to find it. And so you can simulate that merge, and if it's a big file, I highly recommend simulating the merge before really letting it go. You've got a few chances to get it right. And if you think about the manual method, which many of you are doing, the manual method of generating essentially a mail merge, this is ultimately going to be easier no matter what. So if you have to spend some time on the front end troubleshooting, that's the right thing to do. That's the right place to spend your time. Well, once again, I got the timing right. So finishing up, preview and pan, look for errors, generate email message, make sure you turn send receive off, and always choose edit individual documents. Don't just send them to print. We talked about this. You can close the one that's called letters 1. You can name it whatever you want. Those are the fixes we did for text. And while you guys are busy typing in your questions, I'm going to make one more trip out to our Facebook group and see if anyone posted any questions in here other than Judy's earlier today. And let me come back out here to LinkedIn, see if we have anything out here in our LinkedIn group. Any questions popping in there? And I don't see any, and so it is your turn. Let's see who's with us. We have Judy, Katrina, Teresa, and Velma. Glad you could join us. Please let us know if you have any questions. And if you want to hang out a bit and try some of this, if you weren't able to download the files, let me know. I can email them to you. I see some coming in the Q&A pod. Emailing the mail merge. Okay, let's be brave, Velma. I'm going to do one. All right, let me minimize this. Let me save this, and we'll do a brand new mail merge. We'll do an email. And of course, like I said, before we do the email, I'm going to come out here and go to send receive and work offline to make sure that it, oops, come on now, work offline. So it doesn't automatically send anything. Yes, Katrina, you're right about that. It is practice, practice, practice. And that's why I gave you the 2 files. I'm hoping something that easy will kind of get you into that habit. If you, your Christmas card list is still fresh in your mind, you can always use that one. All right, so I'm going to do file close. And I'm going to do a brand new mail merge here, mailings, and we're going to select email right out front. Now it's coming up in just kind of a generic view. It's not like a letter, just a generic view. Hi, please, let's just do hi and put first name in. Well, select recipients. So I'm using an existing list. We'll use our, the original one. We'll use our mail merge data source without the fixes in it. And we want to put in hi, first name. Thanks for your donation last year of that. Let's do well, Melissa. Okay, I'm just going to keep it simple. All right, so preview results. We want to make sure it looks good. When we do, stop making fun of me. I know y'all proofread. When you're happy with it, you go to finish and merge. Once again, make sure that you see that bright red X on top of Outlook here. Hit finish and merge. You can edit individual documents and look at it, but let's hit send email messages. Here is where you put in your subject line. So that's what a lot of people get confused about the email. It's like, well, when do you put the subject line in? You put it in the back end. So subject line is thanks for donation, mail format HTML, or you can make it plain text if you want to. And let's click OK. Now, here's what happened out in Outlook. In my primary mailbox, those are the email messages. And if I had not marked work offline, they'd be gone. Now, let me take it one step further, because I mentioned putting something out to a different, from a different mailbox. So let me go to my outbox here, and let me show you my behind the scenes trick to get it to go out from a non-primary, which is my Sawbuck seminars. I'm going to drag these down to the outbox here. Now, here's the only kind of pain in the butt. If you drag it to another one, you have to just open it each one and hit send. Now, you can open up several at a time. I wouldn't go more than about 8 or 10 at a time, but you have to actually do send, otherwise it doesn't register where it's coming from. So if we take a look at this now, it's coming from info@Sawbuck seminars. If I were to go ahead and say work offline, they would all go out. I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to get rid of all these because who knows who they'll go to. Those are fake names. But that is the process of getting an email out using a mail merge. So what I want to make sure of, Velma, did that help you? Did that answer your question about the email? I got you over here in chat. Yes, good. Okay. Yeah, it is a little scary, and still is. The reason I think I get so crazy about that, the send receive off thing, is because the very first time I helped somebody with a mail merge, it was like 500 emails going out to investors, and it was something very official, and it went out with a typo. So right. So yeah. So I'm all big on having a look at it before. All right, any other questions? Did you find this useful? Did this dispel any mysteries for you about this mail merge thing? All right, good deal. I'm so glad. Yeah, now you can all use this thing with confidence and be a mail merge wizard. You can be your own mail merge wizard. All right, guys, as you know, if you try stuff out, the recording will come out probably within about 24 hours. You may not hear about it till Monday, but it'll be wrapped up and you'll get another email about it. And good, glad to hear it, Velma. And you guys will get a link. When you get the link to the video, I'm still not happy with this, but it will make you register again. But as soon as you register, you'll have access to watch the video. And if you have any problems getting the handout stuff or the source files, just shoot it to me and I will shoot me an email and I'll make sure you get it. I am hoping all of you have a glorious weekend. Myself, I'm going to Barcelona for the first time, so I'm excited about that. And I hope to see you on a future Sawbuck seminar. Stay there with me in social media. Let me know what you want to learn. It's been my pleasure to be with you today, everybody. Have a good one. Bye-bye now. Hmm.